They planted a bright orange sign right in the middle of our sunflower field before I finished my coffee. I pulled up, saw men with clipboards, and the color in the field went cold like someone had taken the sun out. By noon, a glossy van was parked on our gravel road, and a woman with a perfect smile was telling half the town she was there to save us. My name is Ethan Mallory. I grew up 2 counties over, learned to read a runway the same way some guys learned to read a map, and the 12 acres behind our house Maya's grandmother planted them. Her father tended them, and we left a patch for the bees. That land is a quiet kind of anchor. It's not just dirt and seeds, it's memory, and the way a person's hands remember a place long after their knees forget. So when someone starts handing out flyers that say progress and opportunity, you can feel it in your chest like a small animal sensing a storm. The woman with the smile introduced herself as Vivian Cole from Aerovista Dynamics. She talked about jobs, tax revenue, a community aero hub where drones could be tested safely, where local youth could be trained, all the good words. She even brought a drone, polished and small, like jewelry, and launched it over the flowers as if to say, see? Nothing to fear. I met her eyes, and she was professional and warm and absolutely empty. Polished charm is a kind of armor. Maya watched from the porch with her notebook. She has a teacher's suspicion for details and a farmer's instinct for timing. And when Vivian asked one too many questions about the irrigation lines and the old survey markers, Maya's pencil stopped. People began to split. Some neighbors wanted the payoffs. Some were afraid of losing the quiet. The HOA, which had been nothing more than neighborhood potlucks and a stack of bylaws, became the stage for something else. Meetings got scheduled at weird hours. Petitions appeared with signatures that looked too neat. I tried to be reasonable. I showed them soil tests, family deeds, photos of Granddad standing in the field the day he came home from Korea. But reason works differently against a glossy presentation and a smiling sales pitch. Then the small things started. A mailbox bent, a scarecrow cut down, a tire flattened outside our barn. Drones came in at night, not the pretty demo drone, but low, buzzing, mapping, like someone was reading our property with a pencil. Maya started photographing everything, timestamping every image like a scientist gritting a study. She's methodical. You need that when you're watching your life get priced and parceled by strangers. Vivian upped the charm. At a town forum, she brought renderings of a new park, quotes from community leaders, and a woman from a nearby school who testified how Aerovista had built educational partnerships in 3 other towns. The auditorium smelled like cheap coffee and hope. Half the room clapped. Half of them, including a man named Howard who'd once beamed at our harvest festival, voted to fast-track the assessment. They were not bad people, they were scared, and fear does strange, practical things to a town's moral compass. Someone started a smear campaign. A fake Facebook account posted an old video of me ranting at a county meeting about flight corridors taken out of context, looped, captioned, "Local lunatic opposes jobs." The comments are quick and mean. They taste like rust. When I called for a public review, the response was procedural. We have receipts, they told us, and procedures are walls built by committee. When I dug, because what else do you do when your home is under a microscope, I found links, small at first, leading to an LLC in a different state, and a pattern of developments that disappeared right after the paperwork changed hands. Aerovista's name kept popping up with different shells, and people who never quite said where the money came from. My training, 3 years in airspace management, a decade reading telemetry, made these patterns look like a map, contour lines of intent. Then one afternoon they mocked up a safety demonstration right in our field. Vivian invited the press. She put on a headset and beamed as a drone rose, higher and higher, a bright speck over the yellow heads of sunflowers. Cameras zoomed. People in business casual clapped. Unseen, a military training corridor ran through our county on scheduled routine exercises, the kind pilots file for months in advance. I recognized the call sign before anyone in town knew what a call sign was. Phantom lead, 2 jets, ETA 30 minutes. I felt something cold in my mouth. What I did next is the thing that changed everything. I could have stormed the stage like a hero in a movie, but heroes are often reckless. I've always been a person who reads checklists. I grabbed my radio, found the civil military frequency where training flights and metropolitan controllers whisper to each other, and I called Colonel Harper at the base, blunt and honest. I told him about the demo, the drone, and the crowd, I told him the exact grid coordinates mapped on my grandmother's old property. I did not try to seize control. I warned. I gave the facts. When you've worked around aircraft, you learn quick that respect for procedure saves lives. On the field, Vivian's smile faltered as the contrails appeared. The demo drone ascended neatly into the sun, and the two military jets' black triangles in a sudden bright sky were a long, terrible geometry. Cameras kept rolling. Vivian mouthed to the reporter, "Everything's under control," like someone trying to repair glass with glue. I could hear the base acknowledge my warning. They shifted their approach. One jet made a looping vector, the other climbed. The sound reached us not like a movie, but like a freight train rolling through a canyon, and the crowd turned to the sky in a way I will not forget. When the sonic booms cracked, hands went to mouths. Someone screamed, someone laughed, someone cried. The drone, small and blinking, landed with delicate dignity. The near miss, and it was a near miss, made the whole town feel thin and exposed, like a curtain in a draft. After that day, the narrative reversed. Journalists wanted to know who knew what and when. Federal investigators showed up with credentials and patience, the kind that smells like long hours and paperwork. The more they pulled, the more the tidy strings unraveled. It turned out the petitions had forged signatures. The environmental review had been outsourced to a consultancy with a suspiciously cozy relationship to Aerovista, and a contractor who'd changed his story under questioning led them to a shell company funneling payments. Vivian's rose-colored plans hid data-gathering operations that matched patterns in foreign defense procurement files I'd seen in a past assignment, not obvious espionage, but the kind of mapping that builds toward it. Here's the part of the story that is never neat. People betrayed each other for reasons you can explain and reasons you can't. Howard admitted later he'd been offered a buyout he thought could save his retirement. A contractor named Paul confessed to being pressured. He'd had medical bills and a deadline. Vivian, when she was finally asked to sit down in front of a federal agent, started to cry, not the theatrical tear, but the kind that comes from bone. She denied knowing the others, then named names, then stopped. The web was messy. Greed meets fear meets ambition, and sometimes they make very ugly things. The town recovered in a way that was slow and stubborn. There were hearings and fines, and one quiet indictment. We got a protective covenant on the field, a legal ribbon we didn't expect, but were glad to have. The community held meetings that were less about doing and more about listening. People came with casseroles and apologies and, awkwardly, offers to help replant damaged rows. They put up small signs about pollinators and education barns rather than corporate logos. Maya taught a children's class about soil, the irony sitting heavy that the same hands feeding the town now needed to guard knowledge. I went back to flying not jets, just small, safe planes, and sometimes up there the field looks like a patchwork quilt, stitched by whoever's hands could be trusted. I don't tell this story to be heroic. I tell it because it's what happens when a town is offered a shortcut and must decide what it is willing to trade for convenience. I wanted to protect a piece of ground because it was ours, because you can place your palms in a row of dirt and remember who you are, and I also wanted to show that a person with an old radio, a little bit of knowledge, and an unwillingness to be intimidated can change the course of a plan that uses people like props. In the weeks after, people would come up to me at the farmer's market and ask, "Were you scared?" And I'd say yes, because that's honest. Fear is a compass. It points to what matters. But when enough people are willing to listen, really listen, procedure and truth can push back even the most polished lie. I'll leave you with this. If you ever find a glossy flyer in your mailbox promising the moon, look for the fine print. Ask who the owners are, where the money comes from, who stands to gain if the ground beneath your feet changes hands. And if you care at all about the place you grew up or the place you planted, say something. Stand up in a meeting. Take a picture. Call someone who knows how to read a flight plan. It's not dramatic advice, it's just the sort that keeps houses standing. So tell me, if this happened in your town, where would you draw the line? Would you sign a petition for jobs, or pull up the sign and plant another sunflower? Drop a comment below. Tell your story, and tell us what justice looks like to you. If you like this account, hit like, share it with someone who's been through something similar, and subscribe if you want more stories about what happens when ordinary people push back.